take your square and find the apex of that mortise, ear wall, and just, strike your knife line. You can go a little beyond. Remember that the actual shoulders are a 1/16 on each side, so you have a little bit of flexibility there. And I would do the same over here, and then come over here, put this inside of the mortise, strike, put my knife inside of the mortise, and strike, and then chisel away, short grain, all that, square it up, easy peasy, taking your square itself, and then sort of, once you clean it up, setting it in there and making sure that, that it doesn't want to force itself out. You can actually go all the way down into that depth, and everything is nice and clean, so you can fit your tenon all the way down. At this point too, I can also check the depth where I'm at, 1/2 inch. Let's check the web. 3/16. So we're good. But then you also need to square up that inside mortise. That's a little trickier. I can't quite get my square down into those corners. So what you do for that is I have a magic piece of wood. And this piece of wood is just a little thinner than that opening right inside of there. So I can float this inside, and I just milled it up from a piece of test stock and cut it short, planed it down to a light 3/8, and I'll take my chisel and I'll find the apex of the inside of that mortise and line it straight up, make a mark. I have a 1/4 inch chisel, so I gotta do this twice. And so now I've basically made a knife line on the inside of there so I can chisel straight down, right? And so really easy way to get that done. If you're doing this on a bigger board, you can use, and let's say instead of a 3/8 bit, you're using a 1/2 inch bit to create this. You can actually use your square itself and ride that in there. So that's another use for this guy. But I had to mill up a little piece of wood, took 2 seconds, and I can confidently chisel down there with accuracy. I'll check the squareness of that, just like I did with these walls, making sure everything looks clean. I'll do the same here, right? Same process. So I've done all of that, and now it looks like this, and I'm ready to transfer to my tenon board. At this point, I've double checked the depth of everything, and I'm making sure I'm at 1/2 inch and 3/16. And just like regular mortise and tenons, the actual tenons are not as long as how deep our mortise is. So in the plans, we have tenons that are 7/16 tall on each side. So this is where your dovetails need to be done. You fit your case together. You're going to measure right where, and you could have already plunged these, that's fine. The case, the house mortises can be done. I bring my case together. I measure inside of my case to the inside dimension of my case, so not from the inside of the mortise, but this plane right here. Then I add 7/16, and I add 7/16. So I'm accounting for the tenon going into my case side, and so I can still have a tight shoulder. So right now my bottom divider is too long. I'll find that dimension, I add 7/8, because that's what 7/16 times 2 is, and that is the final length of my divider. So I cut my divider to final length, and then let's see what my triangle is. Then I'm going to take that divider and try and do it this way. And I'll hover it over, and this is that same width, which is helpful. I can keep that in line on edge to edge and make sure everything's good, and my triangles are on the same face and everything's in relation. And let's try and do this here. take the clamp. This is easier with a longer board. Good. And so now I'm going to transfer, because I've already cut it to length, it's already at thickness, it's still a little too wide, but I'll deal with that after I cut my tenons. I'll take my square, keep it loose, sharp pencil. I'm going to set that inside of my, where my ear walls are for my mortises. And I'll bring those pencil lines up, here, here. Now, the way I'm transferring these, this edge of my square is on the inside ear wall of my mortise, right? And my pencil line is actually on the outside of my tenon. So when you start thinking about it, you're going to want to cut that pencil line off when you're done. And I'll remind you of that when we're at it, but you've got to cut that pencil line off. And so that's all the marks you got to do before you go cut your shoulders at the router table. So let's do that.